Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Reefing Report. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm COVID positive, but I'm going to make it.
Oh, no. COVID positive? That can't be, man. How did that happen?
Who knows? We'll never know. All I know is maybe this opens the door for travel because I get the PCR test. It's positive. Then I can show recovered. Then you don't have to test to go to another country. So the threat of quarantine is off.
So what you're trying to say is you're a lucky guy getting COVID. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Let's maybe only because it's not having a severe impact on me. Very mild. Someone in our neighborhood got COVID and died. So
yeah, I'm not making light of it, but I will say if you are vaccinated, you should be vaccinated. And if you got the booster, if that's your choice to get the booster, and Mark has, this is, getting COVID is not the thing it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I do personally believe you get a bonus out of it, which is now you get that natural immunity, Mark. So you get like 1, 2, 3, and now 4, little bumps to your immunity system. And there's a lot of places in the world that are, if you get the right note from your doctor, they honor that, right?
Yep. You don't have to test going in. So there's not the threat of quarantine. So I got to go check that list and go travel.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not trying to sit here and make light of COVID, so don't take that. But what I am saying is if you do happen to get it and you have the vaccine, and hopefully you've gotten the vaccine, it certainly hopefully won't be as dramatic as before when it was just wreaking havoc. And yes, my mother even got COVID as well. So I'm fully aware of what it is. I have not received the blessing and curse of COVID yet, Mark. So I'm not part of that group. But so where are you going to go?
Let's see. I have to check out Egypt and see if I go to the Red Sea. That's on the list. It only lasts for so long. I think you got like 60-day window where most companies or countries will accept it.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'll have to check. If Fiji says that I can come without testing, then I may be coming over there to cough on you so you can get a positive test and then we can go.
I can tell you right now, I am up for Fiji. I am up for Matangi Island, having been there before on your recommendation. I shouldn't even put it out on this, but we don't have enough viewers now to really hurt the anything, but definitely up for that. So if you're game for one of those deals, I know Nancy will be in here in a second saying, "Oh yeah, let's go do it right now."
Let's do it.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Well, we'll get there. It's they certainly love the business. They had 2 years of nothing.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, we went about 9 months after they had that hurricane, and it's amazing how fast. You go out and dives, and both of us are certified divers, right? So you go out on dives and you go with dive masters, and many times they tell you like, "Oh, don't touch the coral. It takes years for the coral to grow back." And I went back to Fiji 9 months after that hurricane came through, and I saw these tables out there by Matangi. And they're just huge tables, and they had been knocked over, and there was already like 6 inches or 8 inches of growth because the table was now like this, and then the new growth was like that, right? And you're like, okay, awesome. So much for years and years to grow, but definitely a cool
That's a
place.
great story to tell tourists, though. Tell the tourists, don't touch it. It takes forever to grow.
I agree. I tell people that all the time. I tell people that all the time. Oh man, you don't even walk out in the water. Leave it to us professionals.
I'll bring you footage.
Yeah,
tell
exactly.
You all about it.
I'll show you what it's about. And there are fire coral out there, so you want to be careful. Oh, fire coral? No, I'm not going out there. Yeah, so definitely an interesting stream tonight because there is a game that I should be watching, but you whipped me into shape. Okay, said we need to keep a consistent time frame, right?
Absolutely. Maybe later we can push it a little bit and get a little lazy, but now you all are counting on us being live at 7 Central. There's some people who don't care about the game. They want the news. They're in the right spot, so we got to be here too.
Well, we've got our fans out here, Reef the Sea Forever, Renzano. A bunch of these guys are out here. We don't have a huge crew tonight yet. Hopefully they can share the stream because we do have a mystery guest, first guest ever on the program. And Reef the Sea Forever said, where in Fiji? Well, I did mention it once. I'm not going to mention it again. You're going to have to go back and watch it again to find out the hint. Yes.
East Fiji.
It is a beautiful place, and I'm forever grateful to Mark for turning me on to this place. Nancy and I went there for our 25th anniversary, and it is
Oh,
absolutely an amazing place. So definitely watch it back. And if you're lucky enough to go there, it is way cheaper than you think. And I'll tell you what, after going there, it spoiled Hawaii for me. That's how nice it is. It just completely spoiled Hawaii for me to where if it cost me 50% more to go to Fiji, so it means like maybe I can only go there once every, 3 years instead of Hawaii every 2 years or something like that. That's fine. I'll go to Fiji instead, and I'll skip a year.
I'll
That's
be I'll be in Hawaii in March. I'm going to be sitting there looking, kind of southwest, like it's out there.
yeah.
I can feel it.
Well, there you
All
go.
right. So, I mean, speaking of places that you can go
Okay.
and enjoy, I mean, you can kind of look, not everyone can go, so they get to enjoy it for what's in their tank. And maybe they enjoy it so much they want to get in the business of saltwater aquariums and providing livestock. There's a business that's up for sale that
Okay.
you as a viewer could buy. And Dr. Mack, if you've been in the industry for a while, you know the name. I always knew him as the clam guy, but he's putting the business up for sale. So, Terence, now you're the retired from Neptune Systems. Is this your next play?
I tell you what, if this was in Texas or Idaho, maybe Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, any of those states, I would probably be taking a hard look at it because I'll tell you what, Pacific East Aquaculture, Dr. Mack, he's at all the trade shows. He's a guy with the hookup out there. He goes and flies out to Indonesia. He gets all the hottest corals. In fact, if you buy corals from down in Florida, probably they came from Dr. Mack. A lot of the really hot stuff came from Dr. Mack if you bought them down there from those guys in Orlando. Here's some pictures, obviously, of his place there. It's in Maryland. It's pretty cool. In addition to that, the skinny is that he's got some special hookup in Tonga for clams, Mark, that he can farm clams there exclusively, I guess, in Tonga. Now, Tonga just had a huge volcano go off, so I don't know how that affected it, but pretty cool. What do you think, Mark?
I mean, everyone was all about getting the hookup, right? Like we want to get in on the biggest corals. I don't think people realize the game about you have to ship thousands of dollars over to Tonga and they're going to kind of send you what you get. But I guess if you own the whole thing from the source all the way to your house, then it's a little different than just people. You see these guys on Facebook and they're like, "Oh, this diver contacted me. We're gonna do a group buy," and next thing you know, like, "Oh, it disappeared," or the box showed up and it was junk. So they've taken all the risk on it. They've already got the hookups. I mean, I'm in Maryland every other month.
So one of the key
Kind
things,
of got me thinking.
obviously, and the reason guys like Vic from Worldwide Corals, is always so. At Neptune Systems, our booth was always at Reefapalooza, directly across from Pacific East Aquaculture. In fact, you can go out and see. I put the skylight over his tank, and he IG'd it last Reefapalooza. And I had a bunch of talks with him, and I would see Vic over there just hand selecting stuff. And the inside angle was in the last Reefapalooza, Vic even offered to buy out his whole stand and tell him to go home. Okay, so when you watch Reefing Report, you're going to get this inside info. That's exactly what happened. And Dr. Mack was like, "Yeah, I don't think so. I'm going to sell my stuff myself. I think I'm going to do better on it instead of just heading home." But always, every year, Vic is over there just scanning everything. Brandon from zoanthids.com and who buys a lot of blastomosas, he is over there all the time looking for the hottest stuff. So Dr. Mack has the hookup in Indonesia. He has the divers that know exactly what to look at, and now he's selling his business. He wants to retire.
I'm building my cart as you're talking, Terrence, on his website to play just.
He is amazing. He has amazing stuff, and every year, like I said, in that booth across the way, I just drool at all the stuff that he has there. You can see some of these tanks, even his display / whatever tank, and just really, really cool stuff that's out there. For sure.
He's even
100%.
got cool names like Bling Bling Cephastria. Do you have the Bling Bling Cephastria? That sounds like something you would have in your tank, Terrence. Everyone needs some bling bling.
I don't know if I don't know if I have Bling Bling Cephastria. I think I have Shooting Star, or who knows what other stuff I have.
But I mean, the good thing is when you get the bigger tank, there's going to be room for the Bling Bling Cephastria or the Bling Bling Zoanthids.
Do you Sophastria. So here's a question for you. Do you like Sophastria, or do you worry that it just takes over your entire tank? Because I've found that it is evil. I had, what is it? The Monty that, what is the one that has a Star Wars name? There's a Monty that has a Star Wars name. Anyway, I had that, and it just killed like the whole Monty, like the entire Monty. It just kept eating it alive, the Sophastria.
Well, I mean, I can use that to my advantage for killing Monties because I'm not a big Monty fan, especially Monty caps. And I like to isolate them. I mean, meteor shower, Sophastria, all that stuff is super cool. And just put it in a little spot and let it grow. If you put it in the middle of your rocks, then yeah, it takes over, it overgrows stuff. And you can't, and it encrusts, so you can't really frag it without removing the rock. So you just got to be smart about it.
Yeah, it's Jedi mind trick. So Vincent got
There
me.
you go.
He knows I don't ever remember all the names for all these things. I just knew it was a Star Wars thing. So yeah, I had a beautiful piece of, it's kind of an undata, I think, a Monopora undata, the Jedi mind trick. And so, yeah, I mean, it just killed the entire thing off, and it was prolific, my Jedi mind trick. So I'm kind of wary of those things now, those Sophastrias.
Well,
I mean, I've got one right behind me here is where it killed it, right there. There's actually one right there.
Now you have room for something else.
Right there.
Right there.
There. Somewhere there.
I'm slightly distracted. I'm building my cart before he sells the business, and I can't get any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Or we just go buy it all. Maybe we should start Reefing Report corals. There you go.
I don't know, man. I'm telling you, this is, looking at how clean everything is in their place. I mean, you and I have been around the world, around the country, and seen some coral places, some coral farms, some places down there near LAX, and they're kind of gross. I mean, let's be honest, okay? They're kind of really gross. This is super sharp, super clean. Now, of course, he knew he was going to take pictures and stuff, but still. This is, like De Young in Europe. This is what this is like. I mean, look, he's got...
Oh, De Young? Yep.
He's got photographs on the wall. I mean, this is beautiful stuff, man. But it's in Maryland.
What's wrong with Maryland? Ken Brown would be smacking you if he was there because of the blue crabs that Ken Brown shucks himself.
Is Ken even on here? Because he's watching the game. I guarantee you he's watching the game. But Ken Brown owns saltwateraquarium.com. Lives in Maryland, Pennsylvania, whatever, in that whole little area there.
Right,
and I will say, if you're into blue crabs, definitely Maryland's the place to be. Outside of that, if there's anybody on here from Maryland, I apologize in advance. It's not the place for me to be. So I just wish this was closer because it would make me, well, maybe I don't wish it was closer because it would make me consider it even that much more to think about picking that up. Sam says, just up for me, smell a road trip. Yeah, I'll make a road trip there at some point too. I guarantee it. Absolutely. There's a lot of road trips in my future.
Yeah, but they're in Maryland, which means you can't, you probably can't use natural ocean water to make your salt, to have salt water in this thing, because you can't just pump it out of the Chesapeake. That means they're going to mix salt. But given the big news story of the week, the whole Tropic Marin, call it Claygate, Saltgate, Turkeygate. That's what my client called it, Turkeygate, the Tropic Marin salt. If you have missed this, you haven't been on Reef to Reefer on Facebook and seen this, but this whole thing about Tropic Marin salt, about bad batches, we can't confirm that, but people alleging that, but only the salt that's made in Turkey.
Yeah, so here's the deal, right? For the longest time, Mark, you and I both know that it was kind of a standard that your salt just looked like crap all the time in your mixing container. It's just the way it was, right? Just after some time, you got goo on the side of your mixing container. And then eventually we found some salts that they basically were, much better at being clean, right? And so now we know that the Tropic Marin salt was one of those that was the nice, clean one. It's been touted by BRS for some time. In fact, probably their demand was 3, 4, 5x because of Ryan and Bulk Reef Supply. And their claim to fame and their thing always was, hey, our salt's clean. And Ryan's thing always was, well, would you really know what's in that stuff? Do you really know what's in all that goo that's in your thing? Or would you rather have no goo?
And then all of a sudden goo shows up in the Tropic Marin stuff. and people go crazy.
Yeah, and then people go crazy. They're used to having goo in their salt for the longest time, and now they're completely going crazy. I will tell you that I am super, super stoked about the fact that these guys are digging in. I've been speaking to some people in the industry, and they are definitely saying that these guys are digging in. They're trying to figure out what it is. They don't believe that it's a negative thing for your reef. And their stuff in Germany does not have this problem.
Yeah, they have a part. They posted on Reef to Reef. Lou, the USA rep, has been very active on there, and they actually have a part of their website now where you can submit a ticket with them and try to give them some details. So they're not just hiding from it, which, as I've said in videos that I've done for saltwater, like it's great to have a great product, and at some point something will go wrong, especially when you get really popular like Tropic Marin stuff. It tells me a lot more about a company, about how they react when something goes wrong, than when everything's peachy and there's no issues at all.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is definitely the case with Tropic Marin, and Bulk Reef Supply as well, right? They're definitely stand up in terms of, hey, we're going to come out and talk about this, and it's going to be one of those things where we're going to do something about it. We're going to figure it out. We're not going to tell you everything right now until we can figure it out. But there's definitely something going on. Until then, we've stopped production in Turkey, and we're only going to do it, we're going to have the German stuff available, which doesn't have this problem. It's clearly in my opinion, a thing that has to do with the fact that they grew really fast. They had to expand their production to meet the demand of the man. Right.
Yep.
And they got bit by it. It sounds like. And what are you going to do?
And I thought it was interesting. Bulk Reef this week, but if you go and look on Tropic Marin Salt, they now have like an added graphic banner that says "Made in Germany, Made in Germany, Made in Germany."
Yeah, I was trying to find it just now, but I couldn't find the exact one. But yeah, all of them now. I mean, they're right on top of that at Bulk Reef Supply to say, yeah, this one that you're going to buy is going to be from Germany, not from Turkey. Now, I mean, I will take the devil's advocate side on this for a minute, which is when you read the verbiage that they did put out, it doesn't say that it's not going to be harmful. It says they don't believe that it's going to be harmful, but they haven't shown that it is or it isn't. I will say that probably if you use this stuff for just one or two water changes, it's probably not going to be a problem. The things that are possibly in that quote unquote clay are things like aluminum, which can kind of have a residual in the tank, but it's going to take a lot to make that happen. And the fact is that if it's sitting in your mixing container, it's probably not in the water. It's probably in the mixing container. Wouldn't you say, Mark?
Yeah, for a long time, I remember Instant Ocean, like someone I even asked, they had a huge vat and they used Instant Ocean because they was donated to them. It was a nonprofit type of thing. And they said that they were told that sludge is a binder and it's nothing to worry about. And yeah, if it's in your mixing container, then some of it might get in your tank, but most of it's on the mixing container. But even though the Reef Moonshiner guys swore off Tropic Marin this week, we put a post of that on the Reefing Report.
We did want to have him on, but he was a little scared, I think.
He politely denied the request, but they said we're not recommending it anymore. They're backing away from it. Wasn't clear. I don't think they said exactly what they recommend now, but he went as far to say, "I'm out."
Okay, so what is your go-to salt? We'll both make a statement here.
So I've been using Fritz for 8 years, I guess, as long as it came out, when they had the blue and then they started making the red and I switched to the red.
Okay. So Fritz is one of those that does leave some residue. It's not as bad as the Red Sea stuff. The Red Sea stuff can be really gross. Because I've mixed both. So I started out, so the reef behind me here, I started out, it's been about 6.5 years. It's crazy, right? 7 years almost, right? 7 years.
Long enough.
6.5, 7 years. I started out with the ATM hot salt, okay, that was given to me, right, by them. I got like 6, and it was awesome. I mean, obviously, ATM's not making salt, okay? So there's the same OEM in Europe, I believe, the same one that does the Seachem salt. It is an anhydrous salt, which is awesome. It doesn't leave any residue. You can just literally toss it in with your hand like you're throwing fertilizer on your front lawn into your sump, and it just dissolves like instantly. And yeah, I mean, it's one of the. It was a great salt, but I had like 6 of those, and then I won a raffle with Fritz, and and unfortunately for what's his name at Fritz, he put on the raffle a
Sean?
year's yeah, Sean. He put a year's worth of salt. He didn't put like max 6 or whatever, and it was at like the Seattle thing, and so this is a great story for you guys. I mean, maybe I'm boring you, maybe I'm not, but
I'm
anyway.
laughing already because I see where this is going.
So I bought like 100 tickets at that Seattle thing, right? And I don't know, I put like, I don't know, 25 of them in that thing, right? Because I'm like, oh, a year's worth of salt. This is worth $25. And so I put like 25 tickets in there. And so I win, right? And then I tell him, dude, I need a year's worth of salt. I got a 600-gallon aquarium. I change my water once a week, 10%. Do the math. Okay, perfect. Awesome. And he's like, yeah, I had a limit on that. Right, he sees me at the Reefapalooza, right, in Orlando, and I'm like, no, you didn't. He's like, I took pictures of every one of those. I know it said on there that it had. I'm like, okay, pull it up on your phone, and he pulls it up, and he's like, SOB. Oh my God, are you kidding me? So I'm like, yes, I will take a half a pallet of Fritz salt. So I ran Fritz salt. And it's been great. I haven't had a problem with it. My tank is doing awesome. Some people don't like the salt. Some people have had issues. And then I started running out of that. And then there was a huge sale at Live Aquaria, who, supposedly, has an OEM for their salt because clearly they don't make it. And it's most likely Fritz salt because it's got the same zip ties and bags and everything else. And so I bought a whole bunch of that. I don't know, like 20 things of that. And that's what I've been using so far as well. So that's all. I've only used 3 different salts since I've had the tank. But I will say one piece of advice that I will have for people, and I don't hear this piece of advice very often when it comes to salt, and we'll see whether or not, Mark, you agree with me. Buy as much salt as your wallet and your storage can take all at once, because it's more than likely all going to come from the same batch. And the likelihood that you're going to get bad salt is going to be reduced dramatically, as opposed to buying another, bucket of salt or box of salt every 6 months or 3 months or whatever it happens to be. It's either going to be all bad or it's going to be all good. That's my kind of secret. So,
Interesting.
Never heard that before, have you?
I mean, no, and I kind of do that. I go through about a pallet of salt, which is about 35 boxes. Every 3 months, not for me.
Right.
Let's clear that up. I don't do big water changes. That's for me and all my clients' tanks. But I mean, you were saying that you've been using that salt, Fritz, for 7 years. You've been into reefing longer than that. Yeah. When this whole Fritz or this whole Tropic Marin Turkeygate thing came down, the first thing I thought was, it's kind of about time, because like, name a salt that hasn't been some kind of debacle that like, oh, I used this salt and all of a sudden my tank crashed or all my acros died in one day when I touched this salt. You're like,
yeah,
okay.
That is a scapegoat. That's a red herring. That's not a thing in my opinion. I mean, as I said, I think that you have a higher likelihood of getting one of those weird flyers if you're getting different salt all the time and different manufacturers and different lots and everything else. But the likelihood you have an entire tank die off because you got some, whack salt is pretty low.
With a small, most likely a small water change, like 30.
Yeah, that's the
it
other
was
thing
something
too.
that to be majorly off in a salt for you to do a 20% water change, and all of a sudden all your acros die.
Well, Mark, I see our guest is here. Should we bring in our mystery guest? He's waiting out there in the green room right now, nice and quiet. I think he's at an airport somewhere. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Let's see if this is going to work. If it's going to work. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. It's like the magic of television. We have Eric Cohen. He's one of the Cohen brothers, not those Cohen brothers. He'd like to be one of those Cohen brothers, but he's
the older of the.
Well, no, I mean, he's not making movies. He's making fish. So we have him here on the Reefing Report. Thanks for being the first ever guest on the Reefing Report. Eric, how are you doing? Oh, I got no audio. So he already blew it by being on mute.
Well. How you guys doing?
Oh, okay. So he's got a bad connection. Yeah, he's got probably maybe a little bit of skipping. So he's at the airport. So Eric, how you doing? Have you had the COVID yet, like Mark has?
No, I haven't. I've been very lucky and been avoiding it by the skin of my teeth, as they say. Just barely. It's all around us, but no, haven't been sick. So I'm grateful for that for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I don't know how much you know about the Reefing Report. Hopefully, you'll check it out. But it is a different kind of thing that we're doing out here in terms of focusing on stuff that is in the news rather than creating the news. And you evidently have some hot new news in the industry. You have a new business venture.
I do. After 6 years of just being in the dry good business, I got back into the livestock business about 6 months ago. I took over a company from a friend of mine called Among the Reef that was started by a young guy that lives not too far from me. And I knew his mother, and she said her son had a elaborate fish tank and wanted to buy him some fish for his birthday, and those fish were on his list. His wish list were like crosshatch triggers, wrought iron butterflies, interruptus angels, all these expensive fish. Anyway, long story short, I ended up getting to know him. He has a passion for it. He started this company Among the Reef, and he just finished law school. He's a full-time lawyer now. He asked me if I would be willing to take over the company, and long story short, here I am 6 months into it. The facility's been going now. We've been trading fish for about 3 months now. Have had some amazing fish come through, and to make it sustainable, we've done a couple things. We have a breeding program which we just started with wrought iron butterflies. That was one of Jordan's passions and really wanted us to raise these fish. So the brood stock we've had for 3 months, quarantining them, and they just went into a 1,500 or 1,400 gallon aquarium to give them the best chance of success for spawning. So that's happening now. And then we started a website called tankstop.com, which is
all right, man.
like
Slow down. I'm gonna get accused of interrupting. Okay. I'm gonna get accused of interrupting here. Okay, but that was quite a soliloquy.
You warned me about that. You warned me about that.
Well, I mean, I heard breeding wrought irons. I'm like,
yeah, I want to dig into some of this stuff. Okay, so first of all, if there is a way that you could turn yourself so you don't have that background behind you, it would be less distracting and also help with the compression. That would be great. That will help, so we actually can see more of you and less of the stuff. Perfect. Excellent. Because you know how
a white background.
There we go. Perfect. That helps out. Okay, so let's unpack this for a moment here. So you, for those of you that don't know, Eric basically was part of sea-dwelling creatures with his brother and your father before that, right? Is that correct? Oh, man.
No, my dad wasn't involved in that business.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. So anyway, you and your brother basically were doing sea-dwelling creatures for a number of years, a wholesale, basically sold corals and fish all around the country to all sorts of local fish stores and whatnot. You got out, started working with Blue Life USA and doing that work. So I use that stuff for the crazy algae in my tank. It's like the only additive I put in my tank, by the way, is to kill that stuff. I don't put any other thing in there. I keep my red slime algae. I like it. It's a good friend of mine. But the Bryopsis algae I can't stand, and so Eric always helped me out with that and giving me some hookup on that. I can't remember what the stuff is called. What's it called, Eric? The stuff for the Bryopsis.
Flux RX.
Yeah, fluconazole in Flux RX. That's right. It's
fluconazole. Flux RX.
Yeah, it's basically an anti-fungus kind of thing, or anyway. So now, then you've gone from that, and now you basically have taken over somebody's online business, but there's two sites. So explain that to me, because I'm still confused on the two-site thing. Are you, Mark?
Yeah, one's coral and one's fish.
Oh, okay. It's that simple.
Well, look at it like Among the Reef. Among the Reef is a very high-end fish website where we're quarantining everything that comes through this company. So Among the Reef is all quarantined fish. I think the tagline is the aquarium concierge. So we're just dealing with very specialty fish and giving a very special service to people who want fully quarantined fish and are looking for a higher end fish. So it's a specialty shop, basically.
Okay. So basically, it's the place that you cater to the rich people, right?
Well, I'm trying to do it on a basic scale too. Like the first batch of fish that I put through quarantine were green chromis, flame angels, 6-line wrasses, and yes, it was originally designed to be catered to the very high end, but I want it to be more than that. So here I am trying to add a different angle of it and offer people commonly traded fish that have gone through full quarantine as well. So
Well,
we're working on
one of our viewers said it's like the Chanel of reef
that.
keeping.
Huh.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
It could be worse, right? So Among the Reef
That's
has
right.
all the fish, right? All the fish that, even if I could afford them, I have such a hard time. Like, I mean, that's a lot of coin, man. That is a lot of coin. But look, that's what people do out there. And then the corals are through what is it? What is it again?
Tankstop.
Tankstop.
Tankstop.com.
Well, tankstop.com is actually tankstop.com is actually full line fish, coral, and products and supplies.
That's why I'm confused.
It's all combined into one, but they're not quarantined fish. The fish that you're buying through Tankstop will be purchased and sold to you as if you were buying it through like a live aquaria or other online places. You could buy from Tankstop, and Among the Reef could take the fish and quarantine it for you at a fee. But Tankstop is a much larger A to Z, all the fish varieties. I think we have over 600 species on the website, and a huge variety of dry goods as well. So
Okay.
it's a full line, all encompassing.
So Among the Reef is your premium place. Every fish is kind of like hand quarantined. You're telling me it's like put together in a way that when you get the fish, it's good to go. You can just chuck it into your tank basically after you acclimate it. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. And then the other one is more close to collection.
Yes, 100%.
Basically bringing it in. It's it's obviously acclimated, etc., from overseas or wherever it comes to, and then if it's good, it's sent out, and basically instead of going to a local fish store and then going to you, it's going to you.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right, I think I got the clue on this, Mark. What was the question you had, Mark? You had a question about the corals and the WYSIWYG or something like that, right?
Yeah, I was noticing the looking at the WYSIWYG stuff, Eric, and even with your fish stuff as well. You're mentioning more of its direct consumer play, likely from a wholesaler. Have you been able to lean on your connections with Sea Dwelling to provide the fish for Among the Reef and Tankstop and corals as well?
Yes, and the WYSIWYG as well.
You are so
Awesome.
politically correct, Mark. I mean, you crack me up, man. Just say what you mean and mean what you say, buddy, okay?
That's what I mean. I mean, it's like, I think it's a great play. You got that connection. You did that for how many years? I used to buy from Sea Dwelling. Like the furnace was the shizzle, man. You walk in there and you're like, whoa.
The furnace was good.
What
What was the name of the guy? Derek or something that I met him over there. I can't remember. What was his name that ran the furnace stuff a few years back? Anyway, maybe you don't know, Eric, but they definitely had some cool stuff over there back in the corner. I remember it was back in the corner away from all the other livestock tanks, right?
Yeah, so it makes sense
Yes,
to me that Sea Dwelling can provide some of that for them.
But didn't you say that somebody said it's identical? The listings are identical?
Yeah,
Mark?
That's what I was
Sea
told.
Dwelling basically is doing the fulfillment. That's true. Sea Dwelling is doing our fulfillment, and for the livestock on Tankstop, I will be adding captive raised suppliers to the Tankstop website as well. But and the dry goods are coming from somewhere else, a large wholesale distributor of all of the aquarium supplies that are doing fulfillment for us as well. That's why we have, I think, close to 7,000 or 8,000 dry good items available on the Tank Stop website as well.
So it's definitely one stop,
And,
right? So it's livestock and dry goods. You get everything all in one place.
That's right. And if you wanted to buy a fish off of Tank Stop, and you wanted it quarantined, you could bring it. We would take it to Among the Reefs warehouse. We have a separate warehouse, separate holding facilities, quarantine facilities, and we could hold that fish for you and ship it to you after 3 to 4 weeks if everything goes well.
What would that protocol look like, Eric?
We're doing two different things. We're doing a tank transfer method, similar to what Humble Fish has been doing, a hybrid method, but we're really trying to get the fish treated for internal and external parasites, urinema, flukes, and transferring the fish from throughout 3 different quarantine systems. So they spend about a week and a half in each system. They get treated, hydrogen peroxide, fenbendazole, and another, I can't remember the other product off the top of my head, but they're going through this, and praziquantal as well. And we're putting that in the food. We're putting that in the food as well. So internally, externally, and we're just putting them through the tank transfer method. And by the 4th week, they're clean. If everything goes well, like I said, we've had to hold fish longer because if they get sick, then they got to go through a broad spectrum antibiotic treatment. It takes a little longer for us to get them fully through the quarantine system.
All right.
So it's the same cost. But,
that's what I wanted to ask is kind of how does this work? So let's say, let me give you just a hypothetical here. So let's say I buy a $500 fish from Tank Stop, okay, and I want to get it quarantined through Among the Reef, okay. So how does it work? I pay for the fish and then pay for the quarantining. What's that going to look like cost wise? Is it a percentage? Is it a flat fee? How does that work?
It's kind of, I've been taking it like if you're buying a $500 fish, that's a $500 risk to me. If I'm putting it through quarantine and we lose it, it's guaranteed to you. So I usually charge, say, $200 to, could be more than that depending on the cost of the fish.
I think that's incredibly reasonable, to be honest with you. Seriously, I think that's incredibly reasonable. Yeah. And that was the.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it's guaranteed. So if it's guaranteed.
It is guaranteed. It is guaranteed. So you'll get a store credit if it doesn't make it. Like I have a Tinker Eye hybrid Burgesi from the Marshalls that is taking about 2 weeks longer because it started getting some fin rot about halfway through our quarantine process. So we had to kind of switch gears, isolate it, give it a different type of treatment. Fortunately, it's looking really good and never stopped eating well. So that was really good. And it's healing up. So I just keep that communication with the customers, let them know what's going on with the fish. These kinds of things happen. And it's no extra charge to the customer. If it takes longer, it's just part of it. Sometimes it'll go smooth. Sometimes it won't.
So Jameson says that's his fish. Jameson Brissell.
Yeah, that we have the purchaser of the fish on the Reefing Report. That's cool.
How cool is that?
Jameson fish.
That's super cool. So, okay, so I buy the fish. I buy the fish. I pay for the QT.
Looking good, buddy.
I buy the fish. I pay for the QT. From that point, it's hands off for me as a consumer. You guys take care of everything. If the fish happens to not make it, then you replace it with another, put it into quarantine, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I get a fish that comes to me that I acclimated at home, put it in the tank. And then is there any kind of like 7-day guarantee on my fish or anything like that after the fact?
We're doing a live arrival guarantee. Jordan, who had the company before me, had a live or a guaranteed eating policy that the fish would be eating for you as a guarantee. I feel like it's fair just to have a live arrival guarantee. I mean, we've had the fish for 30 days or longer. Obviously, it's been eating and it's in perfect health before we ship it out. As long as everything goes well with the airlines and it gets there on time and temperature's good,
Hey,
the
look, I
fish
know
should do
you're
well
a
for you.
super
But I have
reasonable.
had,
I know you're a super reasonable person too. So, you can
yeah,
get also a fish that it arrives alive. Maybe the temperature in the bag, it's a summer, it's 84 degrees, or it's in the winter and it's 68 degrees, and it's still alive. You acclimate it and everything. It goes in the tank and it has a problem. I know for a fact, because I've known you for a long time, that if a customer called you up and say, "Look, here's the deal. I know for a fact that the water was this and this was that," and you know that they've got a tank like either Mark's or mine behind us, you're gonna come through for the customer, right?
absolutely. I know from doing this for so long that, you know, the little things don't bother me. And in the long run, I'm going to do the right thing to keep a customer happy. And the DOAs are really not really that significant
Right.
in the big picture. We're way more successful than we are when we had get some challenges going through us. I did have a fish that came in perfect to a customer a few weeks ago. Absolutely looked great. We had the fish. It came in perfect. Quarantine, arrived to the customer perfect. He was so stoked. He's like, fish looks amazing. He woke up the next morning, it's upside down dead in his tank. And his tank looked perfect. He had a
Right.
quarantine tank set up. It looked perfect. I no explanation whatsoever. I just told him, don't worry about it. I'm going to replace it. So
Yeah,
we did.
that's really that's what has to happen to have a successful business, where you're dealing, whether it's in a local fish store or online. It's about that customer interaction, and as a as a retailer, you also know, especially you're dealing with higher end fish like this. There's going to be very few people with a $3,600 fish that are going to. You're not going to have some security in the way that they're keeping their tank, or they have someone like Mark taking care of their tank or what have you. And so it's like, okay, at the end of the day, I got to figure out how to deal with this customer and make everybody happy. And because it's ultimately what you really want in this world is, happy customers and people who can show off their tanks and show off their fish and everything else, and they'll be a customer forever, right? Right, Eric?
Absolutely. That's the goal.
Yeah, 100%. So, what about? Anything you're seeing lately out there in the world of fish and acquiring fish and CITES and everything? We have a report here we're going to talk about in a little bit about Europe that we heard about. But anything else you want to tell the people before we let you go?
I would just say, the cost of importing the fish has just really gotten really expensive because of the freight costs. The shipping costs are 5 times, 8 times more expensive than what we're used to seeing. Um, Also, a lot of places have restrictions on flying to certain places too, so it's gotten more difficult that way as well. Um, Other than that, the supply chain through obviously the captive breeding everywhere with fish has really exploded. This is a great time to be in the hobby, watching the success of so many new things happening. Corals are still obviously doing great, but the fish is really where we're seeing all these added species coming into the market. I could make a quick announcement that the first batch of Interruptus angels that were captive bred are going to be available
Wow.
in the next few weeks. So maybe I shouldn't say that, but I didn't
Well,
get in
you just
trouble
did.
for letting.
You heard
Well,
it
I just
here.
did. So that's kind of exciting. I'd make a quick comment about the salt too, because the salt discussion has always
Sure.
been something I've always been interested to. And Tropic Marin is something that was my first main huge impression on me as a hobbyist when I was about 12 years old. And I went into Quality Marine. My dad was partners with Phil Shane, who started Quality Marine in the very beginning, and they were working out of my father's store in Sherman Oaks. And Phil decided to go off onto his own and get into the wholesale business, and he started Quality Marine.
Mm-hmm.
And when the facility was just being finished built, my dad took me in there, and Phil gave me my first bag of Tropic Marin salt that was imported from Germany, and I was unbelievably
Wow.
excited about it. And it just Tropic Marin is obviously a part of my childhood, and I was always so excited and telling my friends, German salt, look at this, and they had no idea what I was so excited about. But
Nerd.
anyway, I've always used That's right, big time. But I've always used, and I'm using now, I use Aquacraft salt. I have had a 35-year or longer relationship with Mike Del Preti, the owner. Him and my dad go way back, and I trust his salt. I mean, he's got $1 million salt facility where he mixes, and he knows as much, if not more, about salt than anybody that I know. And he puts his name behind his brand, and that's the salt that I use. And I can tell you, I've had so much success in this new facility with shipping, and just the fish are coming in so good to the customers, and it's because of the quality of the water that we're using. And that's my 2 cents on the
Little
salt.
plug for
Mike Del Preti.
Yeah.
Aquacraft.
He loves it. He loves it for sure. I guarantee.
Well, thanks for having me on, you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And,
Thanks,
definitely
Mark.
hope to have you on again sometime in the future.
Appreciate
And, let everybody know about the Reefing Report. Give us a little plug here and there when you're out and about. And especially for the website. The website is, the real key to this. We have this once a week so we can give our opinions, but it's definitely the website. So thanks again, Eric, for coming on. And, we'll see you around. Next time in LA, I'll stop by. All right. We'll talk about the valley again.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Take care.
All right, man. All right. Well, that was good. That was really good.
Yeah, there you go. We got that ticked off the list.
Yeah.
First guest there, which, by the way, if you work for a company or you own a company and you're in the news or you feel like you should be on the Reefing Report, certainly reach out to us. By the way, this is not a paid thing. So we want people to, if it's in the news and it's relevant, then you might end up here. So certainly if that's you, let us know.
But speaking of paid, we do have some people I want to give a shout out to. These are new patrons. Okay. So, Mark and I aren't getting rich on this. And in fact, definitely in the arrears in terms of what it costs to buy software and all the other stuff that goes along with it. But I do want to give a shout out to new patrons that we have. To start out with, our original patron, which is Rob Pinkham. Thank you so much, Rob. And then just recently, on the 24th of January, Sean Leaf and Eric Adams both have come on as patrons. There is a link at the top of the site for you to become a patron of the Reefing Report, and we would appreciate it. Mark?
Absolutely. Thank you all for your support. And thanks for, you can support us, one, by the Patreon stuff and also by tipping us off the stuff. Lots of tips this week. We got a couple great juicy stories on that. You can tip us off. You can be anonymous if you want. So thank you for tipping us off. And of course, thank you for the support with Patreon.
Yep, we do get the anonymous tips. Again, that link is at the top of the Reefing Report. So if you want to leave us a tip, please do. So what's next, Mark? What's the next thing?
I just got... Since you accused me earlier in the broadcast of being so politically correct,
okay.
There's, I wrote a headline this week about there's now a Wi-Fi controllable skimmer, which I dubbed at the moment. It's only 30 days into the year, but so far, this is definitely the dumbest product of 2022. I mean, I've never been a fan of DC.
Your voice almost sounded like Bill Maher there, by the way. I just wanted to say, if you watch, you almost had like a Bill Maher impression going right there. The dumbest thing
I have to send you
2022 is.
Okay, so let me be myself, Terence. I'm going to be me. So Wi-Fi skimmers. Again, I'm not a big fan of DC skimmers because, like, you set it and you just leave the thing alone. Quit fiddling with it. If you want to change the wedge pipe, that's one thing. But like the fact that I can get on my phone and connect to it and be like, oh, I'm going to change the skimmer. Like, no, don't do that. But like, who cares? Like, it's not an Apex or a controller. Like, it's a skimmer. Like, oh, please.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. So somebody doesn't like the fact that our links keep them, as Sean Clark says, the links from the Reefing Report will take me away from the site and the existing browser tab. Would not be more beneficial to open the link in a new tab while keeping the Reefing Report open. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, we'll take that into consideration. But for the Wi-Fi skimmer, a standalone Wi-Fi skimmer, totally worthless. Okay, 100% worthless. I am in complete agreement with you, Mark. However, I do have a Seache DC pump that I have, and full transparency, it was given to me, okay, to replace my skimmer pump, my Reef Octopus skimmer pump that I had on there, and it is available to hook up through IOTA into my Apex. And when the my skimmer collection bucket gets to a certain level, it turns the output down to 50%. So in case I get an overflow, it doesn't keep overflowing. So there is a benefit if it's properly done, Mark.
But that's independent of Wi-Fi. That could happen independent of Wi-Fi. You don't need Wi-Fi to do that.
Yeah, you're right. That I don't have to have Wi-Fi to do that. It happens to be how it's implemented with the Seache skimmer, though. So,
right.
I mean, if Seache wanted to have a connection through 0 to 10, that would be fine. I would be able to get that done the same way. But it does work. And but in this case, yes, Aqua XL. Let's talk about the other skimmer thing because we'll lump them together before I give my real comments on this. So the other new thing, and thank you to word out to reef builders, putting this stuff out there. We are not a news creation site. We are a news aggregation site. So thank you to reef builders for this. But the Wave Reef. So just so you know, Wave Reef and Wave Reef and Aqua XL are both, as far as I know, Chinese skimmer companies who work right out of southern China, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Foshan, etc. area, and they thought it was going to be like the next big thing to put UV in a skimmer, Mark. Bet you couldn't wait for that, huh?
There's so many things that are just wrong with it. Like they put the UV in the wedge pipe, and if you've run a skimmer, there's only about that much water in this much of wedge pipe. So you're only getting this much exposure to the UV, and then there's some bubbles coming out with it, which probably cuts down on the UV that's getting to the stuff.
And it's like what, 15 watts or 20? I don't even remember. What is it? Oh, okay.
Not enough.
No,
How about
27.
That? It's not enough watts.
27. Okay, 11 watt. Yeah, 11, 27, 40, and then 90 if you get the giant one. Okay, so
how big is that?
Yeah, assuming you get the giant one, you're now approaching effective UV, wattage levels if it was getting the right amount of exposure to the water and time and all the other things that go with that. But where I'm going to talk here, and people have criticized, I guess me, us, whatever, I think have said, oh yeah, they're crapping on China, with products that are made in China. I have no problem with products made in China. My iPhone is made in China. I have lots of products made in China. Okay, but there's a reason why your iPhone says designed in California. Okay. It doesn't say designed in China because there isn't much in China from a design perspective that they know what they're doing. And reef keeping is no different. I've been to CIPS probably 5 times, okay? And what you see is them, either following along with something somebody else did in Germany or in the US, or you see them taking other things like here, UV and whatnot, and then saying, well, this is good and this is good. Let's just glue them together because it must be really good to put them together. And that's pretty much what I think's happened here. It's a box to check. It's like, okay, you've got a skimmer. I've got a skimmer. I've got a skimmer with UV. There you go.
And in a year, it won't be around.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the other thing about this is that obviously this is a cost. So if they can't justify the cost increase in this, which has to then pass along to the consumer, it's going to go bye-bye. And my guess is the consumer is not going to care, and it's going to go bye-bye.
So, speaking of made in the U.S. or designed in the USA.
I'm going to interrupt you because I'm not supposed to interrupt, okay? But I'm going to interrupt you because I just saw this and I wanted to laugh. Again, with the follow-on, take a look at the color, on that, okay? This was something also was really fun to go to CIPS around 2016-ish when Neptune Systems really started to, to hit their stride, right? 2015, 2016, everything that you would see at not everything, but a large amount of things that you would see at CIPS now became orange or orange and gray. It was pretty funny. Gee, I wonder
It's
why.
orange and red, like, so maybe it's a Bubble King, maybe some consumer confusion there because Bubble King were on exclusive.
Yeah, they
They're
want
all
to
about
kind of
red.
get both of them, right? They want to like hit all things. But anyway, get your segue going there, buddy, as I interrupted you.
So you talked about designed in the USA, made in China, water box tank, no surprise. They're made overseas. They have designed to come up with Euro bracing, not Euro bracing. Give me a second. One piece Euro bracing. So instead of most Euro bracing, there's a strip that goes this way, and then there's a strip that runs, front to back on your tank. They glue them together. These guys cut it out of one piece of glass, much like an acrylic top tank has a top, and they stick it down in there, which I think is really slick.
So the OEM for Waterbox is Fire Aqua. Really cool company. I've actually been to their factory in China. These guys actually know what they're doing. I mean, it's pretty impressive. One of the first times I saw Fire Aqua was at CIPS, and they had these 45-degree mitered corners, which are really cool on a glass tank. It gives you, because of Pythagorean and all of that, it actually gives you more surface area for the for the epoxy or the silicone to actually come together and make a bond. They have amazing machinery there, and I think I don't see many evolutions in the tank building thing very often, but the idea that the Euro brace is all one piece is pretty darn cool, because there is waste obviously associated with this. I don't know if they're doing anything with that waste, but clearly you got to cut out those middle pieces, and then they're either garbage or you got to do something with them. So there's a cost associated with that. And, I have a Reef Savvy tank, which is awesome. And it's got a Euro brace, which is awesome, but it's all lap joint, created. And I can tell you right now, Felix would, like this better in terms of looks. I don't know what he'd say about if it's stronger or not stronger. I don't know. But it definitely is a cooler look.
So then the question is, do you think Felix, being Mr. Premium, would copy that? Because it's very like Reef Savvy-ish. It's sleek and clean. Yeah, I think it fits right in with them.
It absolutely does. I think he would, if I had Felix on, we can have Felix on at some time in the future. It'd be probably pretty cool. He'd come on. I think Felix would say that he doesn't like following other people. So for that, he'd have a hard time with, because he would be following what somebody else did. But at the same time, he would be hard-pressed to ignore that this is way cooler than the way, Eurobrace has been done to date. I think probably the amount of cost overhead could be absorbed somehow or another or included in the price. And I think anybody who would buy a premium tank at that level would be fine with that in order to get that level of fit and finish.
Absolutely. I mean, they would blink an eye. So if I was going Euro bracing, I would ask for that. Yeah, hello, Planet Aquariums.
But again, I think there's obviously a cost associated with it, and whether or not they're going to be able to charge more and still be competitive, especially Planet might be, in their higher end, customers that probably offer that would be pretty cool. How do they cut their glass right now? Is it all CNC cut and everything, or water cut or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, give people a choice. Like, I'm kind of going through this now with home renovations. The GC's like, she's like, here's the window. I'm like, well, why don't you educate me on a better window and give me a choice? So if people want to go pay extra for a CNC one-piece Euro brace, give them that option.
Right. So here's a question I have, though, too, is, and this is maybe a question for Felix, maybe even, or I don't know, maybe even the Waterbox guys, have them on. Is it better to put that Euro brace on the inside edge of all of those outside edges, or to put it on the top of the glass? Right.
I would vote inside edge.
Well, because my Reef Savvy's on top, so for obvious reasons, the way that it's lap jointed together, it has to be. But I don't know. I don't know why it would be better one way or the other. Is there a reason you say that?
Well, I mean, part of it I think is going to depend on what thickness of glass that it's touching on the top, and then what thickness of for that case. But then if you're using 1/2-inch Euro brace, but the sides are 3/4, then you want it on top because you got 3/4
surface
inches
area,
of gap.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So what Planet does in their perimeter bracing, they actually take 2 3/4-inch pieces of glass and glue them together. So you have 1.5 inches. Then what you can run into is you have that 1.5 inches of silicone around the top of your tank, which some people don't like, but strength, beauty kind of thing. That's a good question. I'll ask the Planet guys. You should ask Felix, and we'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely a question to ask. Like, because why didn't this happen before? Kind of a thing. I know. I think Raj actually creates hybrid tanks that are similar to this in that they have an acrylic top and bottom that's CNC'd with a channel. Is that correct for the glass? Right?
Yes.
Yes. No.
Yes.
You've seen this?
Yeah.
I've seen it. I don't know if it's still used or if it came out of style or maybe it didn't work well. I don't know, but it's a similar kind of thought, I think, in terms of one-piece bracing.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of acrylic on top of glass. In time, acrylic will bow and release from the glass.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yep. I had a client who had a glass acrylic hybrid, and it bowed, and he happened to be home, and it started leaking out the top. The manufacturer repaired it, and it bowed again, and he called me and said, forget it, get this thing out of here. I told him, I was like, it's going to leak again, and sure enough, it did. He happened to be home again, and we took it out. So not a fan of the hybrids, but definitely a fan of Euro bracing. And I have to say, I'm quite impressed with what Waterbox did with this. I got a guy who's looking for let's call it a more budget tank from me. And now that I saw this, definitely on my radar.
For sure. All right, man. Well, I think it's about time for us to call it. I don't know, as the game's over. We got people out there.
I think the game just got good, Terence.
Yeah, David said that the Niners were up. I need to go take a look at the game or celebrate or cry.
17-14 Niners.
Okay, so we're gonna call this now. we are now. Time is up. Okay, so thank you all of you for coming to the live stream with the Reefing Report, where we talk about everything that happened in the week in reefing and give our opinions, good opinions, hopefully, and stuff that you enjoy. Mark, to add?
I mean, thanks again for your support. You can tip us off with info. You can support us with Patrons. Thanks for the new ones. We'll be back next week. Won't be the Super Bowl yet. Maybe it'll be a Niners Super Bowl. If it is,
repeat of 1982.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Oh, man.
Yeah, all right. Repeat of 40 years ago. So anyway, thanks again to Eric Cohen for coming on the live stream. Thank you guys for joining us. Join us again next week. Share it. Go and mash that thing. Go to Patreon. Do all the good stuff that you're supposed to do. Until next time, thank you for seeing the Reefing Report. We're out.